Naguib Mahfouz's The Cairo Trilogy actually originates from the so-called realist phase of his rich and diverse literary career, and was intentionally modeled on the works of Flaubert and Tagore. Lauded as one of the greatest modern Arab writers, Mahfouz, who lived from 1911 to 2006, carefully studied, then deconstructed the viewpoints of Proust, Henri Bergson, and Joyce, whose impact is really evident throughout his work. The Cairo Trilogy documents the history of a middle-class family from 1917 to 1944, illustrating how Western influences eroded traditional Egyptian life and ultimately transformed the nation. Its narrative employs a third-person omniscient perspective and features a chronological plot structure with intricate characters and references to Cairo and Egyptian history, lending an authentic sense of place. The second volume centers on Kamal, whose internal struggles are explored through stream-of-consciousness techniques inspired by Joyce, Faulkner, and Kawabata. His cultural dilemma is symbolized by his infatuation with Aida, a young woman raised in Paris who, significantly, both embodies Western influences and represents the conflicting forces within him. Kamal's indecision actually persists into the third volume, where he remains single, living in the family house with his semi-demented sister and still seeking resolution and truth. The trilogy reflects Mahfouz's engagement with modernist techniques, gleaned from the Western novels which had arrived in Egypt along with the British occupation. From the 1930s to about 1945, his work dramatically evolved, going from historical romances akin to the tales of Sir Walter Scott to a realist style reminiscent of Flaubert. And from roughly 1959 onwards, Mahfouz began experimenting with storytelling techniques he had learned by studying Marcel Proust, James Joyce, and William Faulkner. For example, his 1972 novel Mirrors employs a highly Faulknerian approach, deploying 54 different characters to comprehensively depict numerous facets of Egyptian society. The Cairo Trilogy comprises 3 novels: Palace Walk, Palace of Desire, and Sugar Street, each of which are set against the backdrop of Egypt's political upheavals. They depict the decline of an ancient and traditional way of life amid the country's turbulent struggle for independence, social change, and its own modern identity. But the narrative also closely traces the lives of one particular representative family across 3 generations from 1917 to 1944, all in the shadow of Egypt's shifting political landscape. The rebirth of their world begins with British occupation, then encompasses the 1919 revolution, and culminates in the incarceration of 2 grandsons as political prisoners. Palace Walk introduces the traditional Cairo of 1917, focusing on Ahmad Abd al-Jawad, a merchant and autocrat who embodies a long-standing patriarchal cultural tradition. At home, he's authoritarian and righteous. In the outside world, witty, cheerful, and secretly given to libertine ways. Yet his wife considers herself fortunate to have such a husband. The family's daily life revolves around conversations, increasingly dominated by political discussions, especially after Fahmy, the favorite son, is killed during a demonstration. Palace of Desire explores the gradual decline of the parents and shifts focus to the next generation as they take the brunt of enormous social change, particularly young Kamal. Modern Egypt's emerging face shows itself in the marriages of the family's daughters, who enjoy far more equality with their husbands, a drastic evolution from their mother's era. Kamal's character embodies the tension between modernity and tradition, especially through his encounters with Western thought and his infatuation with Aida, who in one character symbolizes both Western influence and cultural conflict. In a fascinating and symbolic scene, Kamal's father reprimands him harshly for having published an article about Charles Darwin, who disputes the Quran's version of creation. During their fiery exchange, the patriarch displays not only the depth of his convictions, but his ignorance by asking his son if this Darwin is one of his teachers. Kamal's internal monologues reveal his ongoing indecision and quest for some truly solid truth. In Sugar Street, the final volume, the family's fortunes decline further. Mahfouz employs realistic details as symbols. Both Kamal's seduction by a westernized woman and the death of his traditionalist father during an air raid represent the clash of old and new. The passing of Kamal's mother following a coma signifies the loss of maternal love and traditional values. Kamal, caught between skepticism and belief, reflects the modern human dilemma. In a nod to Marcel Proust's innovation, throughout the trilogy, time itself functions as the central protagonist, for the narrative focuses on how individual lives are eroded by time. Ahmad Abdel-Jawad's transformation from a vital patriarch to a pitiful old man, and his wife's gradual decline, ending in silence, is that Proustian, inexorable passage of time. Yet, putting a new spin on Proust's worldview, Mahfouz also presents time as an evolutionary force, through which collective progress and social justice emerge from individual sacrifices. The trilogy emphasizes that political revolutions, no matter how traumatic, are also steps in this collective, ongoing process of humans struggling towards the execution of ideals. By the trilogy's end, the family has disintegrated, deaths have accumulated, and 2 grandchildren remain imprisoned as subversive revolutionaries. Kamal, still racked with uncertainty, visits his imprisoned nephews and is inspired by one of them, who speaks of the perpetual revolution and humanity's obligation to engage with it. Gripped by his idealism and resolve for a better future, Kamal vows to continue his own search for guiding beliefs, no matter what it takes or what they ultimately turn out to be. His openness appears to symbolize the author's hope for modern Egypt's future progress, based on both its inherent resilience and growing flexibility as a new culture with a proud history. Mahfouz's The Cairo Trilogy thus functions both as a narrative of personal destruction by time and as a testament to the forward movement of generations towards higher ideals. Hence, one might parallel China's The Story of the Stone and Egypt's The Cairo Trilogy. For both explore the decline of a family amid cultural transitions, and despite differences in class, culture, and era, many similarities in these great works invite meaningful comparison. Have you experienced Egypt firsthand? Have you read any works by Naguib Mahfouz? Please tell us in the comments, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to help keep world literature alive.
As you heard, a very different culture's celebrated saga exploring the decline of a traditional family is truly worth comparing with Mahfouz's work, and it awaits your discerning eye in episode 17.